Welcome back to KBC Biz Check. Many thanks indeed for keeping us company on the second hour. And as mentioned earlier on before that short break, is that we are looking at meeting the housing demand. And without further ado, allow me just to mention that the government has set an ambitious target of over 200,000 housing units every year. However, critical points were a gap between the groundbreaking and keys in hand. And we'll be looking at that transparent audit here, because I have two distinguished gentlemen here, and actually one of them was here, Kitambo. He might tell us all about that. But allow me to rope in my panel of experts, beginning from my immediate left, where we have Oumar Sylla. Oumar is the Director, Regional Office for Africa, United Nations Habitat. Karibu sana. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me this morning here.
And just next to him, we have Byron, Buyu, who is the Secretary, State Department, Housing and Urban Development.
Yes.
Karibu sana.
Thank you very much for that.
And quick to notice that Byron was the one who was here so many years, But it's good to see you, gentlemen. And just as I mentioned, 200,000 housing units annually, but there's a gap between what we see groundbreaking and the keys in hand. Maybe you can give us a transparent audit of the current numbers?
Okay. Thank you very much. So construction is a complex and a phased sort of approach. It's not that you start houses today and you get all of them. The government's ambition is 1 million homes, which, as you know, is a very ambitious target, because the annual deficit is growing at a rate of over 200,000. The current deficit is around 2 million. So basically, when you look at it from the grand scale of things, is that we have to start them at different stages. So right now we have over 250,000 projects that are currently going on. We have 5,000 that we finished and we've given the keys that have been handed over. We have another probably 45,000 that are at a very advanced stage, above 80%, which will be completed as we proceed on. But as you are well aware, the structures are off the ground, and it is now visible. We have projects in each of the 47 counties, and in the constituencies, I think we've covered about 80%. So we have projects across the country. The ambition is 1 million, and 1 million requires funding of nearly 2 trillion. And as you're aware, we're only collecting about 78. So there's so much we can do. But as we proceed, we'll be able to unlock that so that we're able to do it. But as for a start, we have done over 250,000 and proceeding. We have a pipeline of over 700,000. So we know where each and every of these projects is going to come.
And so the 700,000 have already started them?
We have identified them.
You've identified them?
We have identified them. The ones that we have worked on and are currently ongoing and at different stages. Because remember, this is a cyclical process. There are those ones that are in design. There are those ones that we are handing over the sites. There are those that are at implementation. And there are those that now the superstructures are going up. So it's several phases and repeated over several phases. Yes.
Mr. Oumar, Nairobi is the global headquarters for the UN Habitat, and of course a number of international bodies. But I would like to pick your mind, Kenya's affordable housing project program. Is it very viable in the continent as compared to what maybe we've seen in Lagos and also Addis Ababa? From your point of view, the affordable housing program.
Thank you so much. I think something we need to acknowledge first. This housing issue I talk about is a global crisis. It's not only something specific of Kenya. Of course, in Africa, you become stronger because of the demographic, urban demographic pressure we are seeing, which means that every country is looking a way of fixing the housing demand and the housing crisis. Most importantly is finding a balance as well between different categories of society, high-level category, and the one as well who have earning less than $1 a day. At the end of the day, that's where the conversation is important for the context of Kenya. How to make sure access to housing is affordable, democratized, and serving all categories, all society in countries. Of course, coming back to Kenya, I think we have seen some innovation. First, the innovation is looking, internal way of addressing this housing crisis, because many countries they are relying on international institution or international debt to finance this affordable housing program. Secondly, as well, the fact of connecting this housing program with economic transformation is very important.
Kenya faces a significant.
This is one point as well we are missing in Africa, or not being able to harness the economic value of housing in terms of job creation, in terms of industrialization, in terms of creating as well opportunity for young people. We have seen this in Kenya, because what we understand from the Kenya model, this affordable housing program generates more than 200,000 jobs, and which is promoting as well SMEs, the small enterprise in Kenya. Another element as well, which is fundamental, is the political will.
Yeah.
We cannot resolve this housing crisis without having this political will, and it has to be integrated to national development planning. It has to be integrated to national priority. From there, we can look at, what are different way we can take to resolve this matter. I think that's some innovation we are seeing in Kenya, because this housing program is a place at the highest level of the nations and the priority of the country. From there, we can see how we can create all sectors approach to resolve this, housing crisis in Kenya, which means that, yes, there's a lot of things going on. And today I can tell you there's a lot of appetite from other countries to learn from the model of Kenya. So which means that we are fostering kind of collaboration and cross-learning across the continent to see how we can learn from the Kenya experience. So as UN Habitat, you mentioned, this is a global headquarter for UN Habitat. Our interest is to see how we can replicate and how we can learn from the best practices of Kenya and allow others to know how to deal with this matter. And one concrete initiative on that is the Global Championship, because the President Ruto has been appointed as Global Champion Affordable Housing after this General Assembly in September in New York, which means that for us, politically, there's some inspiration we can get from Kenya. Thank you.
Yes. Byron, let's speak from where you left in
Yes.
terms of what you guys are doing to ensure that the Mamambogas and the border riders have a unit. It's an ambitious program, and a number of Kenyans have already benefited, but some are quick to note that it's still not quite affordable for the border and the Mamambogas. So how are you ensuring that indeed they are also catered for, so that we may avoid them being for the upper middle class?
Okay. So as you're well aware, this program has taken a very deliberate step to ensure that there's affirmative action.
Yes.
So we have three classes of houses. We have the social housing, we have the AHP, and the mid-size market housing unit. So the social housing has been ring-fenced for the Mamambogas and the people who are earning below 20,000 shillings. So I'll give you just a very basic rationalization of the numbers. We are building these houses, and the cost of a single room, which is the smallest room that we have, which is a bed-sitter, 20 meters squared, is going for under 700,000. So through the Affordable Housing Fund and leveraging the fund to ensure that we have longer payment periods, between 25 to 30 years, we can actually reduce that sum to a payment of around 4,000 shillings. 4,000 shillings is what they're currently paying. Our houses are 20 meters squared. If you go to Mukuru, you will see that there are houses that are under 9 meters squared. And if you go there and check, they're actually paying close to 3,000 shillings for rent. And imagine it's just the bare mabati walls and the ground. So when you add things like water that they are paying for at a very exorbitant rate, when you add electricity, these people are paying more than 5,000 shillings a month, yet they're living in the most deplorable state. For our package, 3,000 goes directly into the payment of our tenant purchase system, and the 1,000 is for service charge, which has heavily also been subsidized by the Affordable Housing Board. So it is indeed what they're actually paying.
And apologies for
Yes,
interjecting,
no
but
worries.
for the benefit of Kenyans, you
Yes.
talked about the 1,000 for the service charge.
Yes, yes.
What services are the
So,
service charge?
so if you look at our structures, because bear in mind the cost of land is the most expensive. We have one of the most expensive land in the continent. So the service charge is basically to ensure that the place is running well. We have the lifts, we have the common services, that is the lighting in the corridors, the cleaning services, the gardening, and the cleaning of the compound and the area, just to make sure that the place is actually good. So as you look at it, it looks like 1,000 is very small, but when you aggregate it over a large number of units, the amount is just getting to the point that you can be able to provide those services. So there's somebody who comes and collects the garbage, there's somebody who cleans that place. We have lifts that have been designed to use minimum electricity to ensure that it is actually doable. Because some of our units, like in some of the places, because of the cost of the land, we have really densified. So we've gone about 11 or 12 floors. So that means that these houses need to be maintained. There's somebody who needs to do it. And the government has actually approached realtors from the private sector who are managing it on behalf of the Affordable Housing Board. So it is all those services that we enjoy, but now have been pulled together, so that we can be able to offer good services, so that they can be able to have a livable life.
So for the Kenyan who is in the slums there, the Mama Mboga, the border rider, you can comfortably tell them that you have been paying around 5,000, including service charge for
many other things that are overpriced.
Yes, include the infrastructure.
Yes.
You have seen the routes that are leading to the slums, and especially when it rains. He or she can comfortably have and live in a dignified housing for as low as 4,000 shillings a month.
Yes, it is doable. We have several sites that have social housing. We have Mukuru, which is the first phase of the bed sitters is complete. We're actually having people who are moving in. We have the Kibera Soweto, which at this particular phase, we are doing 4,054 units. But remember, these ones are very targeted ones. So the people who are living there, in a space of, say, maybe 10 acres, we look at them, we move them into this place, we free up about 20 acres. So with time, as has been planned, we are literally going to take over the whole place and create social infrastructure facilities. You create schools, you create public facilities, and you create the social fabric. You know, that fabric in the slums where you come from the evening, you're able to have your chats with your people, there is a shop. That social aspect is in our design. So we're not only just building structures, but we're creating shops that can enable them to engage into meaningful economic activities. They can also be able to engage socially. We're also doing lower level health facilities within that place. We also have some play facilities. We also have the ECDs and the primaries, and we are also supporting the schooling around there. So it is actually doable. If you look at our Bomayangu, we are actually at 1.1, almost getting to 1.2 million people who have actually registered within the Bomayangu. So it means that the demand is actually, it's actually there. And if you look at people who are saying that we're building houses and nobody is going to stay there, the population of Nairobi is projected to be well over 14 million by 2050. So which means we are chasing almost like the wind. The population is growing and we're building the houses. So the essence of what you're bringing is affordability. And we want people to be able to commute reasonable times. You don't want somebody commuting 4 hours to their place of work. They wake up at 4 in the evening. Their productivity actually is down. So government has brought most of its public land and made it available for this program. So, because if you look at this class of people earning 20,000, they can't afford public transport. So their way of life is to walk to work. So these buildings that we are doing is affordable to them, and we are encouraging them to take part, register themselves, and their affirmative actions in very select sites where we're ensuring that they do get these houses. Yes.
Director Oumar, Africa is arguably urbanizing more than any other continent in the world. And you have been in the country for a number of years. Is Kenya keeping up with the infrastructure so that we may not end up having, you know, so many high-rise buildings, which more or less looks like slums?
I mean, I think Byron has put forward the figures, you know, the rapid pace of urbanization, as you mentioned, overall in Africa. Today we are talking about from 3 to 4 and 5%, depending on the country you're talking about. But the whole question, as what we are talking about, is the forward-looking of this urbanization to make sure we anticipate this urban growth happening in cities. But the good things as well today, to respond to your question, I think we have seen the rentability and also the contribution of cities to GDP overall. I think the same scenario we have seen in Kenya. Some cities like Mombasa, some cities like Kiambu are contribute a lot on the GDP of the country, including you know, Nairobi. Of course, this is a long-term process. First of all, I think to look at policies is very important. How to make sure policies are adapted, you know, to the context. And also today in Africa, it's about shifting the paradigm and looking cities as the engine of transformation on economic development and creating jobs. How to cater those elements into policy is very important. Secondly, the planning aspect. Before you talk about infrastructure, you need to make sure you have good urban planning. I think the conversations have been going around in Nairobi, in Kenya, after this series of flooding. Should we caution a bit or upgrade a bit, you know, our planning process, our master plan in cities is very important. And that's where many African cities are failing. having a good plan, but also enforcement and implementation of those plans to make sure we are following the pattern of expansion of cities. Another point which is very important as well, the governance aspect is very important. I think today in Kenya we have seen some progressive approach with the devolution. Kenya has unique opportunity today of decentralization, of bringing communities to be part and parcel of the decision making, which means that this devolution can trigger what we call a people-centric planning process of urban development process. When it comes to infrastructure, of course, as mentioned it, we need to upgrade, and depending on the need and observation we are making at the particular context. And today, Kenya are doing a lot of progress. We have seen the establishment of these infrastructure funds, and we hope that this infrastructure fund will help upgrade many of the infrastructure in terms of productivity, in terms of resilience building, because now we have to take into consideration the climate change factors, also the migration factors. Today we have many factors that are pulling people in cities, whether it is a conflict in many countries, or whether it is climate change, or it is just looking for green pasture for communities. So which means that my observation is, yes, we need to keep path of this infrastructure development and upgrade, regularly this, but most importantly, building on the housing project, we need to articulate this infrastructure development with the housing establishment. And that way, again, this aspect of planning is very important. We talk about infrastructure. Of course, something that can drive the transformation and the contribution of housing, economy, and attractivity for people is the infrastructure development. So which means at the end of the day, we need to have this integrated approach to the housing scheme. That's why in UN Habitat, we are talking about housing at the center. We cannot talk about housing without talking about schools, without talking about health, without talking about environment, without talking about accessibility. And this integration is fundamental. It's linked to housing and infrastructure development.
And Byron, how much are we collecting in the housing, in the affordable housing project? How much money are we collecting every month?
On average, we are collecting about 7 billion.
7 billion.
7 billion a month.
How much are we, consuming in terms of the building? Because we cannot consume.
We are consuming more than that.
We are consuming more than 7 billion per month.
Yes. So I told you that the program, when it started, we were accused of putting money in treasury bills.
Yes.
Because projects take time. You have to go do your geotech, your topography, you do the designs and everything. So initially, it looked like we had a lot of money. But right now, we have a critical mass. We have over 1,000 projects that we have signed countrywide. And many of them now are taking off. We have the students' accommodation that we are doing. We have the military project that we are also doing through the Affordable Housing Board. We have the Nairobi Rivers regeneration. So our burn rate is actually quite high. We are doing more than 7 billion. And very soon, when we get to that particular stage, there'll be innovative ways of actually enhancing the money that we need to support the project. Remember, what we are building is an asset. And there are several options that we shall explore through the board, like looking into ways of generating more money so that we can be able to finish the mass. Because 1 billion units is not an easy task. And if you look at how other countries have done it, they have actually employed measures like securitization. They have also employed things like inviting the private sector. Remember, this is an asset that can actually be sold. And when we sell the houses, that comes back to feed what you're already doing. But we are able to spend comfortably more than 7 billion.
All right. When I started building my own house, and it's been a number of years now, somebody told me that sasa unaelewa kwa nini miradi ya serikali haishangi, because it's not complete yet.
Yes.
But looking at the polarizing aspect of the housing levy, assume somebody like me already have my own house. How will I get return on my own investment? And I'm going to contribute until maybe I'm 60 years. I'm working for KBC until I'm 60 years. And I already have my own house. And I'm not the only one.
Yes, there are many.
How will somebody like me and others have their return on investment?
Okay. So one, not to go back to the long history that was there.
Yes.
When we started, we had wanted it to be a contribution. And we came out.
A voluntary one.
Voluntary one.
Yes.
And it was rejected. We tried to convince everybody, and you rejected it with a lot of vigor. So being a program, and our president being very pragmatic, he took the hard decision. So there's a 1.5% levy that is being charged on our salaries, and there's a 1.5% coming from the employer. Now remember, this benefit is open to all Kenyans. It is open even and including to yourself. So when you are able, if there are several bands that we are able to classify which houses you can. It's an affirmative action. So below 20,000 is social. Between 20,000 and 149,000 is affordable. Above 150,000, you get the market. Now look at these houses that we are doing. They are heavily, heavily subsidized. A house that we did in the previous term that was completed, like a house, like let's say in Ngara here, this one that we are doing for Park Road, that house was selling for 3 million shillings. In the open market, it is selling for as much as between 8 and 11 million. But we have done this. We have protected it. You are not able to sell it for 8 years. So that aspect of ownership is what we are driving. As we proceed, there are many other elements of the program that we look at. Don't look at it from a very personal view, because we are a country and we live, all of us. As long as you're a Kenyan citizen, you're eligible to get a house. So your brother, your sister, anybody who has an ID and at the age of 18 years old is eligible to apply for a house. And these houses are heavily, heavily subsidized. So it is a good thing that we are moving from rental and we are moving to this particular phase. At some later stage, I don't know. The policies might change to be able to cater for that. But just to bring it into context, like in Nairobi, 92% of people are actually renting. And they are renting not because they want. It is because the difference between rent and mortgage in some cases has been nearly 3 times, and it doesn't make sense to go for ownership. So what this program is attempting to do is to correct the market. And even before we finish our houses, there are now mortgages that are being done at single digit. Back in 2011, interest rates were as high as 24% for mortgages. And at around, say, 2020, we had less than 30,000 mortgages in this house. So there's the demand side of what we are doing, and there's a supply side, which now we are giving the houses. So from the demand side, banks and KMRC are cooperating together to be able to finance these houses. So the benefit is not only to yourself, it's a benefit on many aspects that we're looking at. We're looking at student accommodation. I don't even want to talk how our students are staying in the university. It is pathetic. You find up to 8 students, they're living in things that look like the slums. They're actually in hardship. I've seen somebody on the social media around KU making some fun of it, but it's the reality. Students are literally toiling instead of focusing on work. So if you give them a good space where they can be able to work, we are correcting things that have slowly stayed over the last 20 years. Remember, in the structural adjustment programs, government stopped investing in housing, and the private sector took that space. When the private sector took this space, guess how much they were only doing for affordable housing? 1%. And today, right now, even with the program, we can see there is a momentum. Go to Mombasa, you're seeing a lot of private players, innovative ways of construction. Prices are coming down or stabilizing.
From what you're saying is that this initiative has forced even the mortgaging companies to bring down their rates.
Yes.
And I'll be very honest, I've covered a number of affordable housing projects, the Mukuru one, I've also covered the railways one, I've also covered the Mombasa one, the Pakistan one. And I would like Bwana Director here to tell us the PPP models. How can the UN Habitat facilitate more private-public partnership? And what is the secret of making the low-cost housing more profitable even for private developers?
No, thank you. I think the challenge we are seeing in Africa, as mentioned by Byron, on terms of affordability, is a high, interest rates we are seeing. Of course, in Kenya it's going down, but in other countries so high you can find even 20% mortgage interest, and you're talking about the bottom line of the society, which is some challenge we are facing, because who's going to bear the risk? Because as well, one element which is very important is linking this conversation of housing to the broader economic system. If you don't have a viable economic system, it's very difficult for the government to take risk on that. That's why you need to bring someone to take the risk, and that's where the role of private sector is important. Of course, for the private sector to have incentive to invest on this, they need guarantee. And the guarantee is on enabling environment, policy, regulation, national framework. That's where you can create this conversation. Today, of course, if you look at the number of what we call blending financing in Africa in the sector of housing is so low, which means that we have a lot to do on that. And that's where I see as an opportunity as well in the context of Kenya. Housing affordability fund can contribute to attract more investors, private sector, in terms of de-risking, in terms of providing guarantee to private sector on that. What UN Habitat is doing, of course, our strategic plan as UN Habitat is around 3 pillars. and has been approved by member state in 2025. One pillar is fundamental, is housing, because we believe that today, to be able to fill this housing gap in Africa, we need this corporate approach, we need this partnership, but also we need the whole house society approach. The second point, of course, is about land. We talk about land. That's one element we need to look at as well when it comes to private sectors. This land aspect has been very destructive and dissuasive in many countries because of the lack of regulation, the lack of approach policy, but also the lack of security protection, because for people to go to the bank, they need guarantees, they need collateral, and land can be the collateral. But if tenant security is an issue in the country, it becomes not viable to use land on that. As mentioned by Byron, I think today the cost of land is very expensive because there's no regulation, no control of land market in society. The other part for us is about land basic services, which is fundamental. All this come to serve a process of collaboration and partnership with private sector and development financial institution. And our exit director is working on establishing, if you want, kind of corporate approach with this financial institution. How UN Habitat is supporting, today we are creating discussion between private sector, government of Kenya and other entities. And we are looking forward even to the Africa Urban Forum that Kenya are going to host next week to drive a bit, this conversation with development partners to see how we can create this corporate approach, not only in Kenya, but in the continental level. From there, we can see the value of private sector of unlocking, this finance, but also on accelerating the provision of affordable housing in Kenya and elsewhere.
All right. And we also need to, first of all, cross over to is UNEP. And next to him, we have Byron Buyu, who is the Secretary, State Department, Housing and Urban Development. We are also answering some of your questions in regards to affordable housing. And allow me to just ask you some of these questions.
Yes.
Somebody is saying that you cannot sell these units. Can you?
The period has been frozen for about 8 years.
What if I have to pay the house for 20 or 15 years?
It is still within. It is co-owned between you and the mortgage institution.
Yeah.
Remember, the Affordable Housing Board here is catalyzing a situation that had been left for the private sector to be able to manage it on its own. So when you take a mortgage, you're actually offsetting yourselves, and your relationship is between you and your bank.
Okay.
But for a TPS, it is for long ownership, so that we can bring in the affordability aspect.
Okay.
Because you're paying 4,000 for 25 years.
Yeah.
But then again, when you're taking a mortgage, just like me and you don't take it at the tightest possible level.
Yeah.
You stretch it to the maximum period, and should your financial position improve, you pay for it. We do hope that now that when we put some of these people in these social houses, their economic situations will improve, because now they're no longer becoming sick. They have access to good services, good opportunities for employment are actually open to them. And we do believe that their families, as they grow up and the opportunities they get, they will pay for these houses in shorter than the 25 or 30 years. Yes.
Another question, very fast. It's not transferable, is it?
Yes, for about 8 years. That is what the regulations are saying. So that one, we do not distort the open market. As I've said, these houses are very heavily subsidized. Some of them that we've looked at in Nairobi that we are selling for an average of 3 or 4 million. In the open market, they are selling for anywhere between 8 and 11 million. So that capital growth over almost double is something that we want to contain, so that we encourage ownership, and also we don't distort heavily the private sector market.
Another quick question is that if I'm working for government,
yes,
and if my wife is also working for government, we cannot have 2 houses. Is that true?
No, that is not true. So far, the regulations say that it is one ID, one home. So if any person above the age of 18 years is eligible. So we're actually encouraging parents, caregivers of students. The best gift you can actually give to your children is a home. The period of giving a child a house deep, let me not say where, but 50 kilometers from here, they have no idea where they're going to get sand, doesn't make sense for this younger generation. But a gifted house that can be able to give them a launching pad for their career and their life is something that we want to do. And remember, with or without this program, urbanization is happening in Nairobi.
Another quick one,
Yes.
is that you, The houses are so affordable that you guys are muscling out the mortgage companies. Are you muscling them out, or are you complementing each other? Because we're talking about a house in Ngara region at a cost of about 3 million, and the cost is about, just like you said, about 8 million, from 5 to 8 million, or even 10 million, depending on the size and the location of the house.
Yes, yes. So what I feel, the mortgage market and the lending market for the houses, we've not yet even tapped 10% of it. We have, as of 2020, we have about 30,000. I've not checked the numbers now. Maybe they have doubled at most. If you look at 60,000 mortgages and you look at a million, it basically says that the thought of getting a house was actually out of reach for very many Kenyans. A lot of people come to the city, they toil, they work hard, they try to take their kids to school. When it comes to retirement, they go back to the village, and what is the first thing they have to do there? Maybe build a house and other expenses around them. So what this program is doing is actually complementing, because even these mortgages are being offered by the private sector. Even this tenant purchase scheme for 25 or 30 years, we collect for the first few years, then we take it to the bank, because now you've created a credit history. Remember, some of these people would not ordinarily qualify even for a loan. Banks would not even allow the mama mboga across the counter, because one, she has no statements. But now we are having conversations with them, we are onboarding them, they're getting their KRA PIN, they're getting their SHA registration, they're able to now to know that when they build their credit rating, by now putting the accounts, making sure that their payments go through the M-Pesa, they're actually building a very good credit profile. And it is a myth that these people of the Mama Mboga, some of them are quite liquid. If you go down here to Wakulima market, some of them are rolling over 100, 200,000 shillings daily. So it's the informal sector, but it doesn't mean that they are not eligible or they are not capable of getting these things. So the government's main role is complementing. And we do hope that in the next 5 or 10 years, we'll have over 100 or 200,000. And then the other elements of things like rates that can actually kick in.
All right. But Director, apologies for freezing you for a bit. We
No
had to do that,
worry,
that quick fire question session.
Yes.
But tell us about exploring green financing, because is there a way Kenya can tap into these opportunities, into the global climate funds, so as to subsidize housing that is also environmentally sustainable?
Definitely. First of all, I think we need to commend the leadership and the diplomacy of Kenya, because we just learned this week that the regional office for the Global Climate Fund is established in Kenya. It is a good sign, an offer on the table for Kenya to really harness, this type of funding. Of course, this is a innovation funding, we to call, this vertical funding system. With the climate change, we are working with Kenya on various initiatives. One is the BCRAP, Building Climate Resilience for Urban Poor, to unlock this funding from the GCF. I think this is a good element as a concrete example. But most importantly, the systematic approach to this fund. Of course, we have seen a lot of initiative going on in Kenya on unlocking this fund. One, it is building on the leadership, of course, in terms of climate change, the continent of Kenya. What does it require? Of course, you require looking into the policy aspect of it, because they are very demanding funds. Because to unlock those funds, it may take years and years. What does it require in terms of capacity? What does it require in terms of institutional framework? All those requirements that has been put on the table. Secondly, as well, as you mentioned, to orient those funding in the particular sectors like housing, which means that we need to look at area of innovation on green building. We cannot build as we used to build with the climate change aspect we are seeing. How to unlock, the energy saving in the construction process. How to bring, new way of building, material in the sectors. Those are area of innovation. They can really put Kenya in a very strong position of negotiating those funds. So as long as collaboration is concerned, of course, as I mentioned, we are working with the government on that. It is good as well to look at the regulation, the building code, to see how to streamline all those requirements to that. Also looking into broader spectrum of the environmental conception, having nature-based solution approach, having a way of bringing, this environmental concept and the design and conception of housing. Of course, to respond to your question, there's opportunity for the green financing. I know there are many entities who has been accredited to the green fund, including KCB, and as entities, which is opening, door for all those entities to get into this, opportunity of green financing.
Byron, we have borrowed a lot from China in terms of technology, We then have the expressway, the superhighway, the SGR. Why is it that we are not borrowing the 3D printing, the precast housing, which could be not only cheaper, because China can literally build a city in a couple of days or weeks. Why aren't we borrowing that for affordable housing?
So you know, you take baby steps, and we are adopting a lot of technology. One of the things that I would gladly say is that we have sat with a team of experts in our design studio. We've involved all the regulation bodies for all these professional bodies. And we sat under the leadership of His Excellency, and we came out with some standard typologies. So right now we are on version 1, version 2, version 3, and version 4. So of late we've seen some contractors coming with alternate technology, which we are looking at. One of them is formwork, where you do the formwork and you just pour concrete and you're able to do a floor per week. We also have precast concrete for the floors. That is speeding up the curing period, which on average is around 3 weeks. If you slow that down to about 1 week and you have, say, 20 floors, you are essentially saving more than 1 year. When you save time in a project, that is actually saving time. So one of the things is that we are looking around. We have also, one thing that is very good that must come out is that 98% of our contractors are local. We have about 2% that are Chinese companies, and they're doing well. So our local contractors' capacity has grown. I would say before the affordable housing program, finding a contractor who did a project for more than 500 million, there were less than the 5 fingers I can count on my hand. But right now, we have more than 600 unique contractors. This means that basically we can be able to export our contractor, our competence and design levels to neighboring sort of countries. So we are adopting. Now, the house is the byproduct of this program. There are other aspects that include manufacturing, which we are now trying to bring the manufacturers from China and the rest of the world to come here. For example, for lifts, the whole country's demand is about 700 lifts a year. But through the program, we are creating demand of over 3,000. So we have actually reasonably good demand to tell the manufacturer, hey, come here, start with your knockdown units, but with time, I want you to be able to do lifts. Lifts that were costing several years ago, up to 20 million shillings. If you look at lift, what is it? It's just a hollow void with some steel structures and some weights. Yeah. So we have demystified that. Prices have actually come down. We are building between 40 and 42,000 Kenya shillings per square meter. About 10, 15 years ago, government projects were doing as high as 60 or 70. So we are challenging what was done previously and demystifying the cost of housing. Okay.
Yes. And Mr. Director, unfortunately we are running out of time, but the green mandate, I would want us to look at, we know cement and carbon, cement and steel are carbon heavy. How is United Nations Habitat ensuring that or guiding Kenyans to using locally sustainable materials? Practical example, bamboo or the precast stones.
I mean, this discussion, I think, is quite, larger than we are talking about. Yes. I think it was a fossil fuel conversation. Yeah. What could be the portion of Africa, and same on the construction and minimizing, the emission of, of gas. I think it's very important to look at it. First of all, of course, there are a lot of possibility in Africa. We can unlock, an innovation of building material which has less emission, but it may require invest a lot on research and development. And that's where some countries are taking the lead to make sure we have university engaged on this particular aspect. We have a lot of investment on looking into innovation in the particular sector. So there's some conversation we have been having with the Ministry of Public Work. I mean, looking into this innovation of green building. Of course, it's a long-term process. What is there and the local naturally? And some conversation we have even with United Nations Development Program at the building. At the time, it was to look into unlocking, for example, the wood system, the timber wood system, how we can address the value chains of timber wood in terms of respecting conservative measures, but at the same time productivity for use. This will require some research to be, and we are working with the government of Kenya to expanding this conversation on the timber wood in terms of value chain, in terms of transformation, but also in terms of contributing to lessening emission, but that also while engaging in the housing construction sectors. Those are some elements we're working on. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll give you 10 seconds for your closing statements. And I would like you to touch on, we've talked about 98% of the contractors being Kenyans. In terms of the supply of materials, the steel, the cement, how much is government officials in this? Because that is something that has been touted in media, that some of the government officials are squarely in the provision of the materials that are being used in the affordable housing scheme.
Okay. So that is a myth that is not true. Because one, if at all there were interest, we would have very few contractors. We have over 1,300 contracts. We have over 600 unique contractors. So which means it is very difficult to go and force 600 contractors to be able to do one or two things. It is important to know that there are very many cement manufacturing companies. So if you're doing a project in Turkana, how are you going to influence it to come all the way from this side? So you have the cement factories on that side being able to maximize that. We have steel factories in Kilifi, also supplying that particular area. So this spread of project and the individual items is very difficult for one singular person to be able to control. And I do hope that next time you can be able to invite some of the manufacturers who are around, so that you can also have this conversation with them, because we've extended this even to the Juakali sector. In every particular town, like even in Eldoret, we have over 100 groups of Juakali that are actually providing services to this thing. So it is so spread out by design that it is very difficult to control it from the center. It has actually been spread out. Allow me to just make 2 remarks on our African Urban Forum, which is happening on next week between the 8th and the 10th. I would like to invite the country to come. This is a good opportunity for us to be able to talk about our successes, and it is our time as a country to come out and speak honestly and genuinely. This is not a political gimmick. It is important that we come and realize. At certain times, it is important that we look at the opportunities that we are creating. We look at how our neighbors are actually admiring us and ensure that we gain the trust. Those are the issues we can always discuss internally. But the African Urban Forum is here. All urban practitioners, we're inviting them. Please do come. KCC will be open from the 8th to 11th. We'll have a range of experts from across Africa, and it's a good opportunity for us to network. People are very curious, asking us how under the leadership of HE that we've actually cracked this.
All right. There's something you wanted to add on?
No, I mean, on the Africa Urban Forum, of course, UN Habitat is providing technical advisory role. Is a continental platform emerging and gives opportunity for African countries to cross-fertilize and to learn from each other. But it doesn't end there as well. We have the World Urban Forum coming in May 7 to 23 in Azerbaijan, in Baku. And we see from this Africa Urban Forum an opportunity for Africa to bring experience and the voice of Africa at the global scene. And we believe that this World Urban Forum will be another opportunity for Africa to learn from each other country, but also to show progress and proudly what's happening in Africa in terms of innovation, in terms of research development in the sector of housing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen. And still on that African Urban Forum, I actually yesterday I hosted the MD for Shelter Africa, and you also touched on that. So it's something that I'm quite sure Kenyans will be waiting. There's so much to know a lot about our agenda. Thank you indeed so much for joining us on this our second hour. And since when we began at 10 a.m., we've been looking at meeting the housing demand. And allow me to reintroduce this distinguished gentleman, beginning from immediate left, where we have Oumar Sylla, Director, Regional Office for Africa, UN Habitat. Thank you so much. Merci. And also Byron Buyu, who is the Secretary, State Department, Housing and Urban Development. Shukran sana. Yes, indeed. I would like us to open up this conversation because I have so many questions.
We will catch up and we can discuss more.
Of course. Many thanks indeed also for you, the viewer, for watching. Let's continue this conversation on social media. Allow me to take you back to Parklands, where, as I mentioned earlier, Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen and Honorable